This week in the UFC, we had news of 2 new major signings to the promotion and also some big fight announcements have been made, so I thought why not give my opinion on all of these topics in today's MMA news reaction video, starting with the most important things first. Of course, Alex Pereira has been signed to the UFC. It is now official as of 22 hours ago. He will be fighting Andreas Michailidis on the UFC 268 card on November the 6th, Usman versus Covington 2, and I love this signing to the UFC. But I do have my opinions about it. I like it because of the storyline, of course. Alex Pereira is the last guy to KO Israel Adesanya. Brutal one-punch KO in kickboxing. Adesanya goes out cold. Everyone's seen that viral video on YouTube by now, of course. I know a lot of people just know Alex Pereira as the guy who KO'd Israel Adesanya, but he also kind of does deserve the respect of also kind of being known as an amazing kickboxer with a great legacy and great accomplishments in his own career. I know he just lost his last fight over at Glory, I believe it was, by majority decision, but even still, he's now focusing on his MMA career. He's signed to the UFC. It's finally happening. There's a lot of hype going on right now because, of course, he did KO Israel Adesanya. But he is 3-1 in MMA, and I'm kind of torn on this situation because I love the fact that we now have another storyline at middleweight to go with against Israel Adesanya. Maybe Alex Pereira can move up the rankings, get a couple of crazy wins in a row. I mean, I can only imagine the hype if he goes out there against Andreas Michailidis, who won his last fight in the UFC. He's not a can on his way out. They haven't given him Sam Alvey here. You know what I'm saying? So, Andreas Michailidis won his last fight in the UFC, and I can only imagine the hype between Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya in MMA if Pereira goes out there and gets that nasty left hook KO immediately in the first round against Andreas Michailidis, walks around the octagon, points at Israel Adesanya, maybe cage side, who knows, because he doesn't have a fight coming up for a very long time. Maybe he's there to support Usman, who knows. I can only imagine the hype behind Alex Pereira's name if he does go out there and do this, but there is a part of my brain that also tells me this guy's fucking 3-1, okay? I like Alex Pereira, okay? He's great at kickboxing. He's phenomenal at kickboxing. He's one of the best at kickboxing, okay? He's 3-1 in MMA, and I'm okay with it. Because of the kickboxing accolades, I understand. It'd be like if they took in an Olympian wrestler who won gold medal at the Olympics, and they took him straight into the UFC after his first 4 MMA fights, even if he went 3-1. I kind of get it. It makes sense. But at the same time, yeah, he's 3-1 in MMA, and I really do respect them signing him. Just going to point it out, I'm all for the hype. I'm all for the buzz. This is going to be better for the UFC that it's happened. I'm just worried about what kind of standard we're setting here when we sign people like this, okay? He's lost some fights. He lost a fight to an opponent in his debut in MMA. He got choked out in the 3rd round. So already that's a little bit of a warning sign that maybe the ground game's not too complete. But then again, he went on in his next few MMA fights to win by KO brutally in a lot of them, in every single one of them, by the way. Also taking on some decent opponents as well. Marcus Vinicius KO'd him in the 2nd round as well. Showed some good takedown defense there. Showed improved takedown defense. But his last MMA bout was against a guy who was 4-4 in Thomas Powell. And I know he KO'd him in the 1st round and it was a brutal KO. The guy is now 5-5. Like, I don't know. He beat a 4-4 guy, and here he is, 3-1 in the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the best MMA promotion on earth. I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Andreas shoots a double leg, and he just might get choked out in round 1. That's just kind of how it could work. I think I will go with Alex Pereira here. Andreas Michailidis is not much of a grappler. He doesn't really grapple too much at all, in all honesty. Last fight went out there against KB Buller, predominantly just swinging wildly on the feet in the stand-up department. He's a wild guy. I do see Alex Pereira getting him as he's rushing in with one of these combinations or as he's trying to close the distance, because Alex Pereira's left hook, he doesn't even try with it, and they go down when he lands that left hook. Like, they go flatline out cold for like half an hour, it felt like the last one was. Either way, looking forward to this matchup. Maybe they should have had him come through the contenders. I feel like this is what the contender series is for, no? We're getting Dean Barry immediately signed into the UFC. Alex Pereira immediately signed into the UFC. You've got a show for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have loved to have seen Alex Pereira on the Ultimate Fighter. Maybe that would be pretty cool. I understand there's something to do with money as well. I'm sure he doesn't want to go through tough and get paid like 10 for 10. I'm sure he's got a decent contract coming to the UFC, probably something like 30 and 30 or 40 and 40. Something good to start off his career because of how well known he is beforehand. I feel like this is what the Contender Series is for, and I would have rather have him gone through that first, had a show built around him, maybe week 10 of the Contender Series, the last Contender Series episode, Alex Pereira versus another prospect who's like 3-0 in the regional scene, 4-0 in the regional scene, who knows, and they could have built a whole show of the Contender Series around the name of Alex Pereira, and people would have tuned in to the final episode of this season of the Contender Series. Either way, looking forward to his debut. I do have a little bit of a pet peeve about it as well, though. The 268 card is very, very good. However, some cards can be too good, okay? It is really good. But I feel as though, and another person who's been signed recently, that we'll get to in a second, has been put on this card as well. He's going to be on the early prelims, innit? And I feel like he might get overshadowed a bit. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we don't want to see people who are 3-1 on like the prelims or the main card or anything like that. So maybe it's a good thing. Looking forward to it. I just remember on the 249 card when we first came back, and like Calvin Kattar's comment section was just filled up with comments saying, man, Ngannou really destroyed Rosenstruik. Man, Ngannou, like, it's just, there's a lot of buzz taken away. I feel like maybe a fight night feature fight position or a main card opener. Who knows? Maybe the Paddy Pimblett effect. I'm looking forward to his debut, though. I know I sound like I'm critiquing it a bit, but he's fucking 3-1, you know what I'm saying? But either way, good guy. Looking forward to his debut. Another fighter that has also been signed that's got a lot of hype behind him as well. Ian the Future Garry has been signed to the UFC. He's taking on Jordan Williams in his debut again on that November 6th UFC 268 card. Man, two great signings. Ian Garry's been doing work over at Cage Warriors, looking really good over at Cage Warriors. He last beat Jack Grant in the welterweight title fight that they had. Jack Grant's a good lightweight from Cage Warriors. He's fought at welterweight before, but he moved up for this one. Went 5 hard rounds with Ian Garry, and Ian Garry basically won every single round, maybe other than one of them. In my opinion, one of the rounds was pretty close, but he cruised quite well, and he also showed for the first time in his career that he's got 5-round cardio. He was pushing it in the 5th round, and Jack Grant is he's a little bit of and I don't mean to insult him here, because he's from Grimsby, but he's a little bit of an inbred psychopath. So he did start walking Ian Garry down for a second, taking all the punishment that he wants, talking to him, screaming at him at certain moments in that fight, and Ian Garry showed what he hadn't shown previously in his career, which I believe is why he's been signed so soon, plus the fact that he's got a big following, and he's a pretty marketable guy as well. I'm sure he's going to be a star in the future if he does pick up a couple of wins and get Ireland behind him, especially now that McGregor's kind of in his last year of his career. Even if he does come back and win some fights, I don't see him continuing past those last 2 fights on his contract. So Ian Garry, I think he's going to be a star if he does get his wins. I think he will beat Jordan Williams. But again, I'd love to see a Contender Series episode with Ian Garry as the main event, but they're just chucking him straight into the UFC. All good. I'm all for it anyway. Ian Garry, man, he's beat some decent opponents. I know he beat Rostam Akman, who was a former UFC opponent who lost to Jake Matthews in the UFC by decision, went over to Cage Warriors to try and get back in the UFC, still a young guy, and he immediately got head kick KO'd by Ian Garry in that fight as well. Won his debut in Cage Warriors, then they put him against Ian Garry, and Ian Garry destroyed him in the 2nd round by head kick KO. Beat Jack Grant. Doesn't really have too many... Mateus Figlak is a great win. The Figlak brothers are very good, and that's a good win to have. And he finished him by rear naked choke as well. They're no slouch on the ground. We've seen a lot of different things from Ian Garry. As he's moved on up his career, we've seen head kick KOs, TKOs in the 1st round, ground and pound TKOs after some grappling, submissions on the ground by him as well. And now 5-round unanimous decision against Jack Grant. 5 rounds in his first 5-round fight of his career. That's really good experience to have. And Jordan Williams is 9-5. He's literally worse than the last 2 opponents that Ian Garry has taken on, but he's in the UFC. It's just how it is nowadays. I think he's going to beat Jordan Williams. Jordan Williams is shit. If you lose to Mickey Gall, you're shit. I know Mickey Gall's not as bad as people perceive him to be, but if you're going to be like a world champ or a top 15 guy, you beat Mickey Gall. Let's just put it that way, okay? Mike Perry, post Luke K. Perry beats Mickey Gall. So, Let's just put that into perspective for a second. I think he does go out there, get a great win over Jordan Williams. I like his style as well. Great stand-up. I think he goes out there, gets a KO in the first round, establishes his name on that card, and that's going to be an amazing card, man. I can't wait for it. It's all just going to be an amazing pay-per-view main card, then a complete showcase for the rest of the card as well. But let's move on. There's other stuff that's gone down. Some big fight announcements have been made recently as well. Alex Pereira versus Sung Woo Choi has been added to UFC Fight Night on October the 23rd. Featherweight bout, of course. I'm leaning Sung Woo Choi by KO here. Don't get me wrong, Alex Pereira is good, but the guys that he's been beaten to get to the ranking position he's in, he beat Kevin Kroom in his last fight, I feel like. Chase Hooper. You know what I'm saying? Austin Springer. Like, these guys are actually, like, bottom 5 guys in the UFC. They're the bottom of the barrel within the UFC promotion. But Caceres was like ranked number 15 at one point. So good for Sung Woo Choi. I'm sure if he wins this one and wins it by KO, he'll probably get that number 15 position. Very good stuff. October 23rd card as well. I believe that's a Vettori versus Costa card. So that's going to be a great card. This definitely belongs on the main card of it. I'll go with Sung Woo Choi by first round KO. I like the matchup though. It's a decent one. It makes sense. I just wish they would have used Alex Caceres to like, as a name, like just chuck in that vegan soy boy against fucking Ilia Topuria or something like that, and just have Ilia Topuria dismantle him. And now Ilia Topuria is crazy. Like, I wish they would have used his name to, like, build up one of the guys who are already ranked, because otherwise we're going to be cancelling out a Bryce Mitchell, a Movzar, and Ilia Topuria, all these other up-and-comers in the featherweight division. We're going to start halving them against each other now, which I don't quite like the sound of, but still, Sung Woo Choi is another up-and-comer himself. I think he gets this one done. His striking's just too good, and he won't be out-grappled by Alex Caceres. Looking forward to this matchup, though. Good for both. Whoever wins gets number 15. Moving on, another fight that's been made. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Hernandez must be feeling real shit right now. This is not the matchup you'd want, in all honesty, but it's a free win for him, in my opinion. I think he goes out there and gets a TKO. Dustin Stoltzfus, fucking budget fucking Tom Hardy, is going to get destroyed by... He's going to get destroyed. I didn't like his last performance against Rodolfo Vieira. He didn't really show that he had anything, even on the feet, against a jiu-jitsu guy in Rodolfo Vieira. But for Anthony Hernandez, he beat Rodolfo Vieira by submission. Now you get the guy who lost to Rodolfo Vieira in his last fight by submission. Doesn't seem to be a progression moving forwards. But still, I think Anthony Hernandez gets this one done. Dustin Stoltzfus is pretty shit. Moving on to some other fights that have been made that are actually pretty good as well. Marcin Prachnio welcomes Azamat Murzakanov at UFC Fight Night on November 20th. Of course, Azamat is a guy on the Contender Series. Got a big win there. Has really good wins over some underrated opponents that you really wouldn't expect when you first notice it. Like, he has a good win in Combat Sambo against Ion Cutelaba, which is a really good win to have, in all honesty. Ion Cutelaba, and he knocked him down in that fight as well, about fucking 7 times. If you watch the highlights of that fight on YouTube, Murzakanov versus Cutelaba. I know he was bigger at the time, much bigger than Cutelaba, but Cutelaba got knocked down about 7 fucking times in that matchup, and he kept getting back up. Credit to Cutelaba, kept getting back up, kept fighting, got to a decision, I believe it was at the end. But he was getting smacked around by Azamat. Azamat's got real power in his hands, beat some decent opponents. He has a win over Andre Muniz, who's now number 15 in the UFC middleweight division, so he's a great opponent, beating middleweights, guys in lower divisions. I think he's going to make his debut here also in the light heavyweight division, and I can't wait for it, but I just don't see Marcin Prachnio winning this one. And if I'm Marcin Prachnio's management, why sign it? Why sign it, dude? You're chinny, he's got one punch KO power, and he's got momentum right now. I feel like Prachnio's going to lose this one by KO in the first round. 11-0, Azamat Murzakanov, another Dagestani on the rise to watch out for, and we'll see how he goes on from there. Light heavyweight division, got another contender on its way in Azamat. Looking forward to that one indeed. Moving on to another good fight that's been signed recently as well. Speaking of the devil, Andre Muniz versus Dricus du Plessis. Thought I'd give my opinions on this one. This is huge. This is a huge fucking fight. Prospect versus prospect. 2 streaking contenders against each other. Andre Muniz with a big win against Jacare Souza in his last bout. Dricus du Plessis with a big win over Trevin Giles by KO in his last bout. And of course, Andre Muniz submitted Jacare Souza by first round armbar, which I predicted, by the way. First round armbar. Either way, I wasn't bringing it up. It just came out when I was just describing, and it just came out as information that I picked Andre Muniz by first round armbar off of his back against Jacare. But, yeah, I didn't even mean to say it again, that he submitted him by first round armbar. off his back, you know, like I predicted he would. But either way, it's a great matchup. Andre Muniz, Dricus du Plessis. I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis. I like Dricus du Plessis here. His stand-up is not the best, but Muniz's stand-up is not good at all either, really. Like, he really heavily relies on getting it to the ground, using his jiu-jitsu. And I think Dricus du Plessis is being looked at as a KO artist because he is a KO artist. He has got KO power. I mean, he's a fucking physical freak of a guy. He's got ridiculous KO power, and people are seeing that in the UFC, but what you're not seeing beforehand, the guy's got 9 fucking wins by submission. Rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, guillotine, guillotine, rear naked choke. Top level guys. Regional championship belt fights. He's submitting them. I think his ground game is maybe better than his stand-up game. We just haven't really seen it implemented. Well, we did kind of against Trevin Giles, right? Giles went for a takedown. Du Plessis reversed it, ended up on top, completely out-scrambled him. I feel as though Dricus du Plessis has got this one in the bag. He's got great takedown defense, great jiu-jitsu if it goes there, good jiu-jitsu awareness, good scrambles, good grappling, and of course he has a massive stand-up advantage here over Andre Muniz. I feel like if Muniz doesn't win the early scramble or doesn't get the takedown and establish good positional dominance in the first 2-3 minutes, I can see Dricus du Plessis cashing him on the chin after warming up early, because of course Dricus does look terrible in the first few minutes of every single fight on the feet. As soon as he starts to warm up, I can see like a second round rear naked choke finish for Dricus du Plessis after dropping Andre Muniz on the feet. But that's another amazing matchup that's been made. Also, what's been made, Mallory Martin, Montserrat Ruiz, nice ass headlock position, I guess, was what we're going to be tuning in for. And then Nikolai, dangerous surname, Negumrianu versus EK Villanueva. Yeah, those are the fights. You know what I'm saying? There you go. Now that's kind of it, really. Those are the fights that have been made. They're good fights. I like them. Also, Tony Kelly versus Randy Costa. Randy Costa making a comeback after losing to Adrian Yanez. Good times coming forward. Billy Quarantillo versus Shane Burgos. Why not cover that one as well? That was within this week, 6 days ago. Amazing fight to add to that 268 card. I definitely see it selling about 800k buys. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.